Hi, this is TheHande, and welcome to this little video. As you can tell from the different background, I've moved again. But today, I'm going to be bringing you a little video where I will be showcasing how me and Aqualung did the most recent cartoon that we did together on Mega Man Legends. I know this is coming in a little late because it came out quite a while ago. And, actually, I have a funny story to start this off. Now, originally, Ken wanted us to record our brainstorming session because every time we make one of these cartoons, we have a sort of brainstorming session where we kind of hammer out some of the main ideas for the cartoon and whatever. But this time we did not manage, even though we tried multiple times to record, get a call going. We had some scheduling issues, and eventually, because I kind of had some kind of an idea for the cartoon, Ken was just fine. Okay, let's go with that idea. And this cartoon, even though this is probably one of our shorter cartoon, probably the shortest cartoon we've done out of all these teaser cartoons, this had probably the most amount of versions and variations because I did a lot of different animation testing, and I might even show off some of that work. But today, what's interesting is that I'll be showing you a completely different version of the cartoon than the one that was the finished version. So this is the rough version of the cartoon. And there are a few key differences that you will notice as we go along. And so, I will start by just looking at the cartoon as a whole, then we'll come back and we'll see what's there. So here we have the opening scene with the surf bots, and you will already notice that the voices are a little bit different. Notice the little shadows in the background, indicating that this is obviously supposed to be a set. This one was not changed. I think this was the same all the way through. Also notice the shading on the again on the sign. That's supposed to indicate that it's a set. You will notice that the voices of the surf bots are completely different, and so is Iris. And you will notice the transitions are completely different. This is actually one of the few finalized scenes because it's Ken's voice coming out of the shopkeeper. And there you see that scene was a little bit different. And the camera graphics are a little bit different as well. This one stayed mostly the same. And this was a very, very late addition. And this version does not have the credits yet because we hadn't done that. Okay, so points of interest. The first thing that you will notice is that the Surfbot's voice here is completely different. In the finished cartoon, of course, my sister Minna provided the voice of the Surfbot and Ira and also the mayor. But in this early version, I did all of these kind of girly voices.
Oh no! What's wrong? There's treasure in these hills and no way for me to get it.
Oh no!
What's wrong?
There's treasure in these hills and no way for me to get it.
In a way, I kind of fell in love a little bit with this voice that I did, so it felt a little bad having to change it then for the final version, but you know, we obviously, because the Surfbots had this very girly voice, we needed a female voice actor, so we did it that way. And this is actually, I'm pretty sure this was just a mistake on my part, but it kind of works. So this Surfbot has a taped-on fake mustache. And I used a lot of pre-made elements here, so this is something that I've talked about in my making of our, the Mega Man 9 cartoon, is that the way that I used to do these in the old days, and I still did use paint, but modern paint is actually a lot more advanced these days. So amongst other things, paint these days actually supports layers, which was a kind of a huge time saver because basically the background is static, but I then did the animations for these characters, and these were transparent PNGs that I was moving around basically. And I did a little. Actually, I think I might have. Yes, yes, yes. I found it. These are my original concept art for this cartoon. I don't know how well they show up on the video, but basically, I always had the mustachioed guy, the eye patched dude, and this the main serve bot, which we kind of the joke with him is a bit unclear, but it kind of boils down to that he doesn't quite understand. He's a little too honest, and a little bit too frank because it's obviously a scam. And then we have Teasel there. Teasel with the cheesy tie, that was always something that I wanted to have there. So the two other surf bots are still me, but Minna is now the main surf bot. This was not a pre-made element. I think you could tell he's kind of with the kind of static movement that it was kind of that was just basic frames. Now I don't know if I changed my voice clips in these early scenes because I just did a rough cut of this in very early on. And when I first presented this idea to Ken, the very first things that I had only planned, the only things that I had really planned out was this intro and then the sign off part where he says "Where thiefrific" and then where he gets angry at the surf bot and yells at him. Those were literally that was my entire pitch originally. But because Ken didn't have any other ideas in his mind, he said, "Okay, let's go with that." And then I said, "Okay, if we want to beef this thing up, we should add to the sort of skeevy, scammy nature of this by having the scenes of the satisfied customers." And the idea is that they're obviously just bullshitting it all the way through. I think it was Ken's idea to have just throwing like voice lines in. Yes, I do think that was Ken's idea. Because Ken actually, I have played Mega Man Legends. I've specifically played the N64 version. But it had been such a long time, I didn't have a fresh memory of most of these characters. So Ken is the one who chose Ira, Wily, the mayor, and then the junk shop owner as the other characters. So those were all Ken's inputs. And then we just kind of worked around, or I just kind of worked around them to write a script. And we kind of came to the conclusion that it's going to be a combination of the Bonds being there and screwing the guys on the scene, or they're kind of like have this interview footage and they're kind of bullshitting their way through those scenes. Now, Ken's concern was, did we have enough material? But I think, I'm always with comedy, I'm a fan of brevity. This is a little detail. I think I suggested this, that, we can liven up the scenes by adding characters into the background. So we had Data's little monkey dance, which I had to seriously look up a reference for this because I wanted to get the motions right. And Ira, I had never done that, hospital side quest in Mega Man Legends, so I had no clue who Ira was. But then when Ken showed me clips of this, and I don't know how well it came through, but I was so reminded of Osaka from Azumanga Daioh. She has such a similar voice. Maybe not as strong of an accent, but that was like immediately like, oh my god, I want this character now in, like, I went from not knowing anything about this character to, oh my god, I need to have this character in the cartoon because she's so adorably, kind of dopey, happy-go-lucky character. And then, this was kind of Ken's joke. This really mean, I learned to walk again, and it's like completely Yeah, my voice for there just sounds awful because you can just tell it's just my voice, but I've pitched it up.
Thanks to the Bond crew, I learned to walk again. Hey, wait a minute.
Thanks to the Bond crew, I learned to walk again. Hey, wait a minute.
And it doesn't really work. I did it, I did that in one of my other cartoons. It was the third Dink cartoon where we had Loretta the Defender. And I did change my inflection when I did the voice role. I did it so that it would have a little bit more of an effeminate take. And then I pitched it up, but it still sounded kind of fakey. So that's the thing. So I did not do that when I did Mrs. Sponge. I did not, alter my voice because there, the joke was obvious. It's a guy playing a woman. So that there is. But this little detail of the little Met holding the cue card and being in shot. This was all there right from the get go. And then I loved how we kind of worked it into the junk shop owner bit as well.
Hey, wait a minute.
But these static cuts, this was actually something that we talked about that we wanted to like add to the level of cheap, kind of locally produced commercial. That was kind of like the core concept. It's a scam, but it's also like a low budget commercial. That was like the whole bit of it. And I have a funny story about this Wily scene. I'll get back to it. But in this rough scene, I was slightly contemplating just doing the static cuts, because that's a classic one that I used to do all the time. It's in my Street Fighter dating service video. It's in the How Does That Make Sense, which was kind of like broad parody of different video games. And the thing that I hated about doing all the different wipe cuts was the fact that I needed static images, and I thought like that's gonna look so weird, but I couldn't like cut it into the middle of the characters talking either. But ultimately, I made it work for the final cartoon because because that concept I felt strongly enough about that concept. Okay, we have to go through with it. Now this Wily scene, this went through quite a lot of changes. So the background was originally static. We decided to include Roll there, fixing the boat, because that's canon to the game. That happens in the game as well. And we have Wily, of course, because Ken always wants to have Wily in our cartoons. I had no real memory of Wily from the game. I remember that he's in it, and I remember that you maybe needed his ship, but that's about it. So the first funny detail, the very first version of this scene that I did, which I think I have it here, but the details, all the details you see here were actually completely, well, they weren't absent, but you see the little, like the smokestack or whatever it is at the background. There were like these black windows across the gray part, and then up and down that part. And then I only realized, like, oh crap, that's where Wily stands. So he was covering up all of that detail. So I added the extra sheen and the little greeny things, and I think I put more black parts there. But I loved animating Roll getting splashed by oil. That is such a classic cartoony bit. And I love those, even though it's very cliched and, you know, typical. But you see the little droplets there as well I put in. Like, I really love doing that kind of spillage. Liquids in general are kind of fun to animate. Oh yeah, and the voice. Okay, so Wily doesn't have a German accent in the Mega Man Legends, as he doesn't in any of the official games. But me and Ken, you know, we are of the mindset that if Wily doesn't have his German accent, it's not really Wily. But there is a version of this scene, I might show some of the other rejected scenes, where I tried to copy the voice from the game. Because to me, Ken didn't quite agree with this, but to me the problem with Wily's voice is that he's too smooth. He's too, like, nice and, oh, yeah. Well, not quite like that, but... so there's a version, I did a smooth Wily take of this scene. And I did send it to Ken, but as I was sending it to Ken, like, I was conceding, yeah, it doesn't sound right. Let's just go with the German voice instead. And Ken did an absolute killer delivery of this line. I don't remember what the character sounds like. You can kind of tell that I've scaled up the cue card a bit because he was showing too much, because the scale between the shop owner and the serve bot didn't make any sense really to me, so... Oh yeah, and this scene also had multiple versions of it, because, like here you can see, when they're running away, we just had... Oh yeah, and both the serve bot here and Teethel's fist are just transparent PNGs again that I'm just moving around. I did a lot of that in this cartoon, because it's a real time saver when you just have to show, like, simple movement. But I had just a gray blur standing in for the ground, and I didn't like the look of it, so then I did a version where I added the trees flying by, and that helped a little bit with the sense of motion and speed, but it still didn't look quite right. So eventually, like, I did what's in the final cartoon, which is like a full scene. I was trying to kind of maybe cheap out a little bit. Oh yeah, yeah, the background of this scene also looks awful. Like, I didn't realize it would look this bad in grayscale. And also, like, the details on the commissioners, or whatever it is, the inspector's clothes, it didn't pop quite so much. Like, this was originally in color, and then I turned it grayscale in Power Director. But it's only once it came to grayscale that I realized, like, it looks so bad. Like, none of the colors. So, in the finished cartoon, I've made certain colors brighter and certain colors much darker so that they would look better in black and white. Black and white lighting in general. And also, I think these camera graphics are also completely different. This TV filter was there. I used it, so... Oh yeah, that's me doing the mayor's voice too. Should we ask
The Bond crew.
to help our city? Absolutely. I have full confidence in Meg.
The Bond crew.
Should we ask the band crew to help our city?
Absolutely. I have full confidence in...
The band crew.
I tried to put in like a real time, like a timer thing in Power Director. I really couldn't do it, so eventually I decided, like, okay, let's do it like a second timer, especially, just in the final cartoon. And here we threw in, Bon and Tron. Tron and Bon. Bon and Tron Bon. Just as a background cameo, because Ken really wanted them to have Ken actually really wanted Bon to just say, his iconic baboo somewhere there. But we... ultimately, I decided, no, I don't want to, shoehorn too many bits in. Alright, this scene is almost entirely unchanged in the final cartoon, except the music. You might actually... I did the stylistic changes in US cartoons recently. You will recognize this cartoon as being from the black and white era, cue card. I think and it's a piece of stock music that Power Director comes with, and it's called, I think, Stirring the Sauce. And I really did want to use this in the finished cartoon, but when we finally came down to it that we're picking pieces of music from the game, then we ultimately ended up changing it to it wasn't the store theme. I think it's the car theme. Yeah, I think it's the theme that plays in the truck.
Oh, I gotta get in on this shit. Oh, I gotta get in on this shit.
This was Ken's last-minute addition idea, by the way, because we didn't have Aqualung anywhere else in the cartoon. He did two of the voices. He did the inspector and he did the junk shop owner. But he decided, what if I was somehow in the cartoon as the guy watching the commercial? And then I decided, by the way, I don't know why I keep giving him the green t-shirt. He kind of looks like an older Shaggy a little bit, but... yeah, but I loved this little detail. Yeah, so these were great. Alright, and now for my next trick... Let's take a look at some of the other versions of the scenes, the rough versions of the test, and see how the cartoon is evolving.
Oh no, what's wrong?
So here, there's no background music. I think this...
Hills and no.
Alright, and here we have now Minna's voice.
To the Bond crew, I learned to walk again. Hey, wait a minute.
Okay, this is something that we lost. He's waving a little bit there. So, and I think the pause is a bit longer there. Alright, here you can see the boat like the way it originally looked.
My boat was fixed and my business is now booming.
And that oil scene also played at a slightly different speed than it originally... Yes, because I animated the background and Wily talking at different speeds. Separately. So yeah, there's that.
Thanks to
The Bond crew.
So you now can see the difference.
Should we ask the band crew to help our city?
Absolutely. I have full confidence.
Yeah, this scene. I think this was just a test scene. I think that was just a test scene to see how the voice would sound. So that's why his hand came up twice, because I was just extending the scene to fit Ken's delivery.
Should we ask the Bond crew to help our city?
Yeah, so here you can see what the office looks like in actual color, and then in the finished scene there was a lot more detail and divots and more spectrum, a bigger spectrum of color that was being used overall. Alright, and here is the cursed alternate Wily take. Thanks to
The Bond crew.
my boat is now fixed, and my business is booming. Yeah, that does not sound right. So I hope you enjoyed this slightly different making of the cartoon. I'm Hunter the Hunter back in, and see you on the next one.